Hello guys, how y'all doing? So it's been a while since we've seen each other. I recently finished editing another episode of JavaScript for Neophytes, which is again my new video editing style, just like this one is. And I wanted to talk about, in today's video we're going to talk about why you should use Manjaro Linux. Now this video was in a long time of preparation, and I figured, hey, it's about time to actually let you guys know why you should consider using it. As you can see, I'm running it on my desktop. I already showed my desktop environment in a few of my videos, so it is something really amazing, and I absolutely love Manjaro Linux. I just wanted to mention some of the reasons that I managed to gather around, like looking around the internet and then compiling it with my own experience. So some of the points you may have already heard, but again, it's something that I found personally really amazing about using Manjaro Linux. So first off, Manjaro Linux is made absolutely easy. So if you remember my how to partition your partitioning your drive wrong video, which you can see a clip of it up there, basically what it all boiled down to was that Manjaro is actually designed to be a easy installation method for Arch Linux. So if you love Arch Linux but don't want to deal with the complicated installation process, what you can do is you can install Manjaro Linux instead, which comes with a bunch of different environments. And one of the coolest things is that you can actually look at their website, pick whatever desktop environment you like. Desktop environments are pretty much the way AOS looks on the Linux. And one of the coolest things about Manjaro Linux is that instead of having the standard console-like installation on Arch, you have this nice and beautiful graphical installation with the help of a live CD, which is something really cool. You can put it on a USB drive, test it out if it's for you. If you don't like that environment, you can switch to a different version. There are a few versions available. However, you can install a bunch of different variations of Manjaro Linux. Next, and arguably one of the major reasons why it made me switch, was the PPAs. So the PPAs are pretty much a system that was, I think, mostly introduced with Ubuntu, and it's a method of adding somebody else's repository into your OS so you can get a bit more software. Now the problem with that is most of the time that software can be maintained by many people or can be just stopped maintained, and the software will be out of date and may not even work on your Linux version, which is a major point to take in. So one of the really cool things, and I will mention later, is the help of the constant updates and the Arch user repository, and a bunch of different methods with which you can install packages. Again, I'll mention these later in the video, so just bear with me. It's also a lot more. Also, one more thing, Manjaro does have repositories, but those repositories are made like much more lightweight. They're more organized, so it makes it actually a lot faster to download those packages, because they have all their servers in pretty much many major countries at this point. A really cool thing is that there are no more like system update craziness going on. The thing is that with Ubuntu, it has like a bunch of persistent updates that it has to do, and for most power users it's really annoying, since you're trying to use your computer at your highest potential, but you can't even do that because, Ubuntu being Ubuntu, it decides to do stuff that you don't even want. A good example of this is the latest release of Ubuntu. I think it's 2004, not sure. But the thing with that is they made it so that you cannot even use apps most of the time, but you're pretty much forced to use snaps. And if you do not know what snaps are, to put it really simply, it's another way of installing packages, but they take up more space, are in their own containers, so they are like sealed from each other. A lot of apps are breaking. Basically, it's a mess. So that's that. A really cool reason is which is another one, and one that's really dear to a lot of Linux users and a major resource of learning, and that's the Archwiki. The Archwiki is a absolute, it's kind of like the Bible of Linux, if you will. Any major problem that has happened most likely was solved on the Archwiki. In fact, a lot of Linux questions that I had myself were solved with the help of the Archwiki, because somebody else had it already. You can think of the Archwiki as the gigantic library of information where you can get all the things that you need, learn a lot about different things. Within Arch Linux, you can learn a lot of stuff just by reading the Archwiki, which is a absolutely cool resource, and every Linux power user should have that bookmarked. The next thing is the pacman package manager. So a really cool thing with the pacman package manager is, first off, I will highly recommend you to check out my video on the pacman package manager. Yes, that video was edited in the older style still, but it has a lot of information on how you should use it, and once you learn it, you will learn to appreciate its simplicity. And it's really cool that you can use not only the pacman package manager to get your packages, but you can also use a bunch of different ones. For example, you can use flatpacks. As you can see, I have 4 packages installed via flatpacks, and there are a bunch of different ways you can install software, but using the pacman package manager is one of the major ways. And once you learn the pacman package manager, you'll be able to install any piece of software that you might be looking for. It has a lot of easy commands and parameters you can learn in pretty much minutes. And once you learn it and have a pretty good grasp of it, you'll be surprised with how well it all works and how quickly it runs compared to apt. There's a slight speed bump with pacman compared to apt. I haven't really looked into it much, but from my research it seems to be the case. Next up, and that's a really cool thing, is easy kernel switching. So one really cool thing about Arch Linux is you can actually switch the kernel really easily. All you have to do is type in kernel into your search bar and it will bring up the kernel settings page if you open it, obviously. And you can see they have this really neat utility for switching your kernels. For example, I'm currently running version 5.7.14, which is a stable release. There's also version 5.8 I could install, but I just let it update on its own, because from what I've read, a lot of people update to the latest kernel right away, and I wouldn't recommend that. I would just wait a little bit before you do that. In fact, a lot of companies still are running on 4.19 kernel instead of 5.4, but they should switch to 5.4 at this point, because it's the latest LTS release, obviously. LTS is short for long-term support, so that's another 5 years from now on, so a fairly long amount of time for updates and stuff to be pulled from their repositories. And they also have like real-time kernels if you need that performance bump, but to be honest with you, the Linux kernel is fast on its own, and it mostly depends on the way you want to use it, so it's up to you. But again, they have an easy update utility, so if you don't like a certain kernel version, you can dial it back or get to the newest one if you so desire. So I touched upon the AUR before. What is the AUR? The AUR is the Arch user repository. It's another place from which you can get a bunch of your software. To in fact install a bunch of the software from the AUR, you need to get the Yay package manager. It is installed using the Trizen package, which you can install using the pacman package manager. So you hopefully see where I'm going with this. I haven't made a video about this, but one really cool thing with the AUR is if there is a piece of software that isn't within pacman, you can use the AUR to install it. A lot of software is available through the AUR, and you'll be surprised how much stuff you can get installed using the Arch user repository. It's a really cool thing you need to know how to use, and if there is an application someone tells you about, you will most likely find it in the AUR if it's not available in the pacman package manager. As I mentioned, all about like getting software. Another thing is easy access to software. So I already mentioned the AUR, but there are also a bunch of different things you can use. I mentioned flatpacks. That's another thing you can use. I mentioned pacman, which is the package manager. That's also a thing you can use. You can also compile a bunch of the software. In fact, a lot of software for Linux is written with Arch Linux in mind. And if you think about it, it actually makes sense. For example, a lot of Ubuntu users are struggling just getting Steam or Spotify running. Well, back then it was the case. Nowadays it's a bit easier, but in my opinion, when it comes to ease of installation, it is, how should I say it? It's actually easier to install software that way instead of using something else. It's also a bit more lightweight on your machines. Again, this depends on your desktop environment. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Also, a really cool thing is the welcoming community. So the welcoming community is mostly something attributed to Arch Linux and to Arch Linux itself. And it's that if you have a problem, most likely there will be someone who's ready to help you in your time of need or desperation. For example, the official Manjaro forums are always there for you. The Manjaro forums is one of the greatest places to look for Manjaro tips, tricks, and possible fixes with your problems. And the final reason is pretty much the desktop environment. For example, I installed Manjaro Linux KDE edition on my computer and I customized it and made it look like Mac OS. In fact, the really cool thing about Linux is that with it being so easy to install and use for new users, you can make it look like anything you want. You can make it look like Windows, or like Windows 95 even, or like I have like Mac OS, which is something really cool. Pretty much in terms of customization, the sky is the limit. I would like to add it there, but there's one more thing I want to mention. I already mentioned the ease of installation. Manjaro Linux makes their installation utility so easy to use. It's pretty much impossible to screw anything up. It's made so easy that they even tell you what it will do ahead of time. So you don't have to be scared, you can just read it. They have a really nice installation media. You can test it on your hardware if you so desire, and you can even like think, if you don't like the desktop environment, you can change it, you can pick a different version. There's a lot of ways you can go about this. If there is something you like, you can install it, it's up to you. All the tools that you need to customize your Linux installation are there. The only thing it takes is your time, your effort, and your determination to make it look good. To be honest, this stock installation looks nice, but it doesn't look as nice as this installation as I have, in my opinion. I absolutely love the way my installation looks. So yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to say in terms of all the topics. There's like a bunch of things I didn't mention and a bunch of things I should have mentioned, but again, I'm trying something else. I am planning on making more videos about Linux in the future, so if anyone wants more videos like this, just let me know. I would like to help and make videos like this. So I want to thank all of you for joining me today. I am really having fun making these videos. So if you end up liking this video, make sure to hit a like, subscribe, and I will see all of you hopefully in the next video. I'm not sure what I'm gonna make it about. I'm just gonna have to think about it for a while. So yeah, make sure to like, subscribe, share it, and I will see all of you beautiful people next time.